All right, let's face it. In high school, we all had that one English teacher. Well, that English teacher is me. I'm Brian Kulak, a career educator and author of The Hot Seat. Every week, I reconnect with former students, colleagues, and fascinating people to explore who they were, who they are now, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Welcome to The Hot Seat.
Hey, everybody. This is I don't want to misrepresent what this is. So I'm about to hop on with my my high school English teacher. He wrote a book, and he asked me to be on like a little like Instagram live thing. Hey, Kaylee. But then Instagram just changed their rules, so you can't go live if you don't have 1,000 followers, which he doesn't because he is a loser. So I have to start it on mine, and then he's going to hop on here, and we're going to talk about, I think it's mostly like high school shit or whatever. So this is not, this is nothing I was planning on doing. So if anybody is in here looking for, anything, thank you, Chris. So now this is going to be super awkward while I wait for him to come on and do this thing. There's no Pat lore. There's no nothing. If you want to know, how lame I was in high school, we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into it. Get into all the details. Yeah, Kaylee, this is mostly just going to be me roasting Kulak. There he is.
Yeah, you start my show by calling me a loser. I mean, I think I want to quit now. This is bullshit.
I don't think it's...
I know you're big time and everybody. You got all your friends on here, all these famous comedians or whatever. But I'll get a regroup now.
I would argue your initial statement. I started your show. I don't think it's your show anymore. I think when Instagram tells you you're not capable of hosting your own show, it ceases to be yours.
I like when you let everybody know I don't have 1,000 followers. That's super humbling and awesome. So I'll have you know, comedy world, I'm north of 770. So I'm coming. All right. I am an up and coming Instagram loser that Pat has graced with his presence this week on what was my show. And now I'm on the bottom of the screen, so it's his show. And Pat, now I'm going to talk about all the things you told me not to talk about when we did like pre-show conference.
Let's get into it. I mean, listen, there's nobody here. That's the thing. Like,
That's the thing. Nobody watching this.
I can fuck around and be like, oh yeah, I can't big time you when my celebrity draw has 10 people currently in the chat.
10. Look, double digits is good, man. I mean, this is the 9th show I've done. So if you're counting at home, that's 9 weeks of just amazing content from your buddy with 773 followers, whatever it is. So hopefully after this, LA will come correct and join the party on my Instagram. But it is really exciting to talk to you. Have we seen each other since you graduated?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I know we've talked the whole time, but I don't remember seeing you. I know a lot's changed for you since I saw you, not just the success, but you're like a celebrity. And you come from this little tiny town in South Jersey. And I was lucky enough to have you in class in that fateful year of 2001 when I had no idea what I was doing. I remember exactly where you sat, back right by the door. I remember there was just as much under your breath as there was out loud as you were working on your comedy routine way back when at the very old age of 17. But I am incredibly proud of you. I mean, this is a huge deal for you and for Audubon. I will tell you that I'm going to start with a real softball late night show question. So my first celebrity run-in was with now Flyers coach Rick Tocchet at the AMC 8 in Marlton. I was like 7. I had the inside of Reese's Pieces or Reese's Peanut Butter Cup wrapper. My dad's like, just go have him sign this. And he did. And I was awestruck. I had his jersey. Who was your first celebrity encounter when you got off the bus at LAX like Miley Cyrus?
Man, in LA, I don't know. See, my thing is like, even though I even like now working in the industry, I'm so detached from so much of it. And like I'm so aloof that like if I'm walking down the street, unless it's like Shaq or
Yeah.
like a celebrity that you can't miss because of, whatever, I probably wouldn't even notice. We did see, and I guess this had to be one of the first ones just based on the timeline. We saw Angelina Jolie at Toys R Us one year. So based on Toys R Us's current status, that had to be probably back like 2014, 15. She was
She
buying a
had an
bunch of
assistant to go there for her several kids. She did
she
it
was
herself.
she was there. She had like, I mean, she had assistants with her. There were like
Okay.
three shopping carts full of toys, but she was just
Yeah.
yeah, she was just out there at Los Feliz Toys R Us, just loading up on Christmas gifts. So
Wow.
yeah.
So that's a pretty big one. And then once you got in the industry and inside the walls there, then who did you start to rub elbows with first? And tell me about your crew. I know you and Jeff Ross seem to have been pretty tight. I watched
Yeah.
Jeff when I was a kid. So talk to us about like just the evolution of getting from here to there, and then how it all came together.
Yeah, I mean, to answer the first part, and then I guess we'll work backwards. Like, I met Jeff through Roast Battle, which was like the first show I started doing a lot when I was out here, and that's where I met most of the celebrities. And at first you get really like starstruck, and then you kind of like settle into it. Like I
Mhm.
remember, I think it was my second battle ever. John Mayer was one of the judges, um, which was like crazy. I don't even care about John Mayer at all. But
Same,
all of a
same.
sudden, when he's there and he's beautiful and he's right next to you, you're just like, oh my god, dude! And you're like so starstruck over somebody that like you can't name two of their songs. It's like, oh yeah, you're the creep with the Body Is a Wonderland song. Can we get a
That's
picture
right.
together?
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I remember like Chappelle was at one of the first ones I ever went to,
Yep.
and like
Yep.
he hung around all night. I waited at the store until like 4 a.m. trying to get like a picture with him. And so embarrassing in retrospect. I finally worked up the nerve to go up to him at like 2 a.m. And I was just like, hey man, I'm a big fan. Is there any way I could get a picture with you? And he goes, oh yeah, of course, man. And he just turns and walks away. And like, I mean, he dissed me so hard, but I was so like foggy brained at that point because he was even there. I convinced myself, I was like, oh, maybe he's just high and he forgot that he said that. I'm gonna ask him again later. Like, what a fucking psychotic
That
thing to
is,
do.
it's such a great drop. I mean, you have to respect the game a little bit, right? Like you waited and waited, and he said yes and walked away. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of a boss move,
Oh, it was
and that's
great.
something only
It was
Chappelle
great.
could pull off.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting a picture with him later, and the guy who took it, I gave him he was another comic, and I gave him my phone, and he was like, "Oh, hang on, my phone's like better or newer," and he's like fishing through his phone, and
Right.
Chappelle's like, "Come on, man, let's get out of here, like, come on," and I'm like, "Dude, just take the fucking picture." So he takes the picture, and like, he gives it to me, and it's literally like a Bigfoot picture. It's just completely blurry. You
I
cannot.
knew, I knew you were gonna say that.
It's just it's
That's
me
so
and
awesome.
I got it framed. I have upstairs. I have a framed picture of me and Chappelle, just super blurry. And then I did a few more shows that like Chappelle was also like a part of the show, and like we interacted and stuff, and like on like a whole different level. That first one was very much like a new to LA
Yeah.
fanboy kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean your second question, like how did I get from there
Hmm.
to here? Um, I started doing stand up in college. I did it for the same reason you make all the mistakes. A cute girl told me I should do it.
Yep.
I had a girl. I was going to Rowan at the time, and I had I think it was international relations. It was
Hmm.
one of those classes that I never used for a second after I left it. But there was a girl who was cute, and I had a crush on her, and she was like, "You're funny. You should do stand up." And I was like, "I would murder a person for you. Like, you're way too attractive to be even talking to me. Whatever you want me to do, I will like,
I'll do.
yes. Yeah." So, I was just like, maybe if I do stand up and I'm funny, like I can, we can make out at some point or whatever, right? That was as
Seems
far
like a
as I
pretty
thought it
safe
through.
parlay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I never made out with her, but I did do stand up and enjoyed it. And now 20 years later, I'm still kind of doing it out here.
So I mean, we're going in reverse. Usually, I start the shows with, who were you, who are you. So now we know who you are. I've known that for a while. I got a lot of feedback in between because it's been 2 weeks. I was away last week, where people said, "I can't wait to see Pat." I did a deep dive. I did the rabbit hole, and I looked at his stuff. But I knew all that already. So tell these guys, at least the people on my end of the show, who you were back then. I mean, I think that's a big part of the hot seat and kind of what we're doing tonight is the evolution of who you were back then. So tell us about that.
I mean, you might even be better equipped to answer this than me. I'll tell you this: like the thing if I could change anything about myself, it would be I have a terrible memory, and I think part of it is because I've had undiagnosed ADHD my whole life. I just started
Sure.
like taking Adderall like a year ago, and it changed like literally everything. But like,
Amazing.
dude, I'm so foggy on everything. That's
Yeah.
why every time I start with like a new therapist, she's like, "Give me your background." I'm like, "I don't know. I remember vaguely playing Little League, and then next thing you know, I was 27. Like, I don't. I have very few memories from like back in that time. My wife was asking me. She's like, "So you're going on with like your teacher? Like, was he
Right.
one of your favorite teachers?" I'm like, "I only remember like four of my teachers.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
which is not a slight on any of them. It's
No, no,
just
no. Yeah.
that's how my brain works, right? So I don't remember a lot about high school. I remember feeling like I was I remember feeling like I was kind of like I mean a lot of it was just a lack of self-confidence, right? Like I felt like an outcast, but I think that was all like mostly in my own head. I think everybody liked me. Like I don't think I
Yeah.
got bullied a ton. But my memories are like, oh, you were the fat kid. You were the kid who nobody like. You didn't go to parties. But it's like, yeah. But I think if you were like, hey, can I come to the party? They would have been like, sure.
Yeah. Of
You
course.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
do. I remember the sarcasm and I remember the humor. So like when it came to pass, however I found out about your career, I was like, yeah, that tracks. That makes total sense. I mean, if I had to pick somebody in my career, the 15 years I was there, it would have been easily you. And I'm not surprised at your success. But I think your point, you had mentioned this in the book. I don't want to give too much away, but for those of you guys who are just now watching, Pat's in the book, and he talks about the experience he had in my class, and it really was this one thing that stuck with him this whole time, which is in itself hilarious, but not for the reasons you would think. Because now, as I'm looking back at it, Pat, when you first wrote that to me, and I was, figuring out where to put it in the book, I'm like, what a jerk off I was. Like, the word you used, which we'll talk about in a second, was so JV. I mean, it was such a bottom feeder curse word, and
Yeah.
it was so not out of malice. It was so it fit with the question and the answer and your personality. And here I am digging you for it. And now again, it's even more psychological for me because you're saying you don't remember much from high school, but you remember me doing that one thing about you in the class. So I'm not happy about it, but I did write to myself in my notes before the show, like no one really got in trouble in my class, but I have to admit that at that time, I didn't know what I was doing, dude. I was fully 24 or something like that. I was just trying to survive. I had sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and that activity was new. So do you want to kind of just tease a little bit about what happened that day and what you remember?
Yeah. And because I think there's like some people in here who are, my friends who might not
Right,
be familiar with
right,
who you are and what you do. Like you were
right.
my high school English teacher, and you had an assignment that you have now parlayed into a book called The Hot Seat, where we would get up there, and it was very much the thinking outside the box teaching, right? Like there's always
Yeah.
some Hollywood movie where like a guy goes to teach in the inner city, and then he just like he turns his chair around backwards and he sits there and he's like, "Hey kids, let's rap about life." Like that's
And
what
all
you
the
were
kids
trying to do.
love him. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were right out of college, and you were like, "I'm going to make a
Yeah.
difference in their lives." You were all corny,
So true. It's
um,
so true.
but you had this assignment where we would go up and you would pick a question at random. I think we like picked a random number or whatever,
Number. Yep, yep.
and it was like a philosophical question. And I remember, I don't remember the exact question, but I vaguely remember the structure of like what I was trying to answer. It was something about you know, coming back to the high school reunion or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was when you leave here, do you picture
Yeah.
yourself never coming back or coming back? I wanted to see how many people were like rooted, especially in that time of your life, you're a senior, either you're like, I love this place, I'm never leaving, or I can't wait to get out. And then you kind of launched into, well, So that's where I'll leave you.
Yeah, and I said something about coming back to the class reunion
Yeah.
in like a Lamborghini or something, and you were
Yep.
like, "Why is that? Why would you want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, just to be a dickhead." I think
Dick. Yeah.
it's
Just Dick. Yeah.
just to be a dick, just to be a
Yeah.
dick. And
Yeah.
first of all, I cringe so hard at that answer because now that I'm older, I'm like, the thing that motivates me the least on earth is like money, and I'm like, what a weird thing to say. And it's
Yeah. But
like,
you're a senior in high school. You're a dude. I mean, you're full of testosterone. I mean, I get it.
sure, yeah, and thank God this was before like Andrew Tate could have gotten a hold of me and led me down
Exactly.
like a weird path. You know what I mean? Like all these
Exactly.
weirdos now, like I
Yeah.
look at it and I'm like, oh my God, I dodged a bullet on that one. But yeah, so that was my answer, and I just remember you being like, yeah, you can't say dick on the hot seat.
Like
Just
there
that
was
matter
any
of fact.
prescribed rules. There was no rules. I was
Yeah.
making up every Friday. I didn't know what I was doing. Oh my God, it's
Literally,
so
the only
embarrassing.
assignment where you're like, there is no way anybody can get anything less than an A. I've created an assignment where it is impossible to get less than an A. And then you were like, congratulations, you found the loophole. And you gave me a B, which was still, I honestly, I was like, I'll take a B. It's not
I know
bad.
you didn't care about grades and you weren't trying to be a dick. That's the whole point is you weren't, that's the problem with the story is if you were, and that was your MO and you and I had beef and I couldn't get through to you in that Hollywood kind of way. That
Yeah.
was not it at all. You were just being honest and you were saying, I want to come back here and show people I was successful. And to your point in the book, you talk about how far removed you are from that now. Like that whole persona
Oh,
that
did
you
I say?
thought,
Good, good.
yeah, you did. No, you did. And because you're in the it's called class reunion part of the book where it's like a reflection from somebody who's not in the
Yeah.
chapter, and that's exactly what we talked about. I think you actually are pretty near the end of the book, which is appropriate. But it's funny, Pat, because all the shows I've done is not many, obviously, as we joked about. But what keeps coming up in these, especially with guys, is this like vast reflection and reminiscence about who they were and who they are now. And it came up a couple weeks ago with a kid named Ryan Boland, who was on the show. He was in
Yeah.
2005, and he was talking about vulnerability. And I couldn't believe what he was sharing. I was so proud of him. And you just mentioned Andrew Tate. I can't believe you said that because in my notes, I wanted to say that as part of that vulnerability that the hot seat helped, I just watched Adolescence last week on Netflix. Did you watch it?
I haven't seen it, no.
You have a son, which I want to get into in a second, but I would watch it cautiously. With your wife, it has a lot to do with Andrew Tate and the toxic masculinity and what we're doing to boys by making them think they can't think and feel and emote and talk with all that stuff. And then Bolin, did that thing a couple weeks ago that just kind of blew my mind. And then here you are again evolving so much in 26 years from that kid who wanted to roll up in the Lamborghini, probably peel out, skid, have a
Yeah.
model on your arm, and kind of go like this to everybody who didn't invite you to
Right.
those parties you talked about. But that's not who you are at all. So that's a good segue into one of the best things about you, and from my faraway perspective, is when you post stuff with Grafton. I love the pictures of you and him. Can you just talk a little bit about like how to balance like roasting and then parenting because they seem to be two completely different worlds?
Yeah, I mean the roasting to me was never about being mean. It was like a cool like way in for me here.
Right.
But like the thing that I love about it is I just love writing. I'm a writer, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
writing jokes is like, my favorite thing to do. And it just so happens that, that I got here at the right time where there was a show where like you could write roast jokes and get up in front of like big crowds and everything like that. And but it was never about being mean. There's so much love in that actual show that it's like,
Right.
for me, it was all about just the science of writing jokes. I get really into, every little bit of like, linguistically like joke writing and
Yep.
everything like that. So,
Yep.
I don't think, it's just completely different from, real life, anything outside of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Even the interaction with the person you just battled, like you're usually best friends afterwards, right?
Right. Right.
And you bust each other's balls, of course, but like there's no malice there. As far as like I don't know, just being a dad, like it's just always it was always something that I wanted to do, and I had the benefit of like seeing a lot of comedians who avoided that part of their lives.
Yep.
I saw a lot of older comedians. I got into it in my early 20s, and I would see comedians in their 40s, like I am now, who didn't have a wife and they didn't have kids and they didn't have a girlfriend and they didn't have any of that because they're like, well, it'll get in the way of my comedy. And it's like that's a lot of eggs to put in one basket.
Right. Right.
Especially something that like regardless of your level of talent, the odds of you making it are very slim, right?
Right. Right.
So I was like, I don't want to sacrifice any of that. I want to have a family and I want to be a dad, and that was always like super important to me. And my son is just he's the coolest, he's the best, and I'm just like I'm so lucky.
Yeah. I mean, just watching you smile through that answer. I mean, I get the dichotomy between your career and your personal life. We all have that in some way, and I think the way you couched it is really poignant because you can give it all up for the possibility of success. But man, I can't imagine, even with the level of success that you have, or the people that Rock and Chappelle and the guys that you're with, there has to be a level of loneliness to it when all you have is that kind of the fame in the career, when you don't have a kid like yours to come home to and take to the movies. I just saw the last couple posts you put up. It makes me happy to see my former students as parents, because when I knew you, you were so far from it, and now you're in the thick of it. So I'm sure you're an amazing dad. I love watching you post about him, and I think that part of your life is probably one you'll continue to keep relatively private, and that's the way it should be. I just wanted to kind of acknowledge, again, pride. I know it's weird to say that so many years later and in this kind of forum, but that's so impactful for me to see people like you, and to talk to you after so many years, when now we have this platform through social media, to just see your happiness and success. So I really am happy for you. I hope your whole family's well. I haven't seen Tim, since graduation either. But speaking of the graduation, let's get into your hot seat question. Now like I said to you before in the pre-show, like I have two for you, so you can pick whichever one you want. I'll start with the first one. They are real. They're from your time with me way back when. But you can say dick all you want. I told my son's to my left. He's 12. I was like, you're going to hear Pat. He's probably going to curse. So, and you jumped right on. So with a curse. So we're ready. So the
Did I?
question I have
Oh,
for you,
sorry about that.
is knowing yourself best, maybe outside your wife, right?
Yeah.
What's the one thing in life that you can't handle?
Ooh, I'm not sure there's anything I can handle, but I mean there are definitely things I struggle with handling.
Yeah, tell me.
Um, it's a crazy thing to not be good at in my particular field. I'm not good at failure. I
I had a feeling you would say that.
I
Yep.
I suck at it.
Yeah.
Dude, like after 20 years of doing comedy, like I should have developed the ability to go out there and bomb and like not have it affect me, but like it crushes me every time. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
um and sometimes there's extenuating circumstances. Oh, I'm working on all new stuff, like, and
Yep.
it might, and you prepare yourself for it, but like overall the feeling of like I know so many comedians who can get up there and be totally comfortable bombing, and I'm just like I've never had that ability.
Right. Yep.
Um yeah, so that's really really difficult for me.
Does that permeate through to your personal life though? Like, failure in personal life is so much more specific than it is on the stage or in our careers. But do you have a concern or a fear about failing as a spouse or a father?
Oh yeah, dude. Of
Yeah.
course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
I think anyone who doesn't have like some fear or at least like awareness of that is like a psycho.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
and I probably overdo it. I mean, one thing that I do that I struggle with is because my wife has a very normal job, right? And she goes to work and she works a bunch of hours, and a lot of times she's the primary breadwinner of the household because
Right.
my pay is very inconsistent.
Right.
Sometimes I'll have really good months, and sometimes I'll go a month without making a dollar, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and as a result, when I don't have like a specific focused job, like if I wake up and I have nothing like on my to-do list, like I am stressing all day about
Same.
like
Yep.
being
Yep.
productive enough to like justify like my existence. And then I also worry about like how everybody else is judging me. So if I'm sitting around on my phone and my wife is like doing laundry, I'm like, why aren't you doing laundry, you piece of shit? She's the
Exactly.
one going to work.
Exactly.
You've been home
Yeah.
all day. You've been cruising, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I struggle with that for sure. And with being a dad, especially with like my son having autism, the whole path has been so much different than I ever
Sure.
anticipated. So
Sure.
you're constantly having to like adapt with that, you know?
Yep. Yep. How much is imposter syndrome a part of like the comedy LA Hollywood world? Because it sounds like what you're describing is exactly what I suffer from. So you put me in a room with people I think are really smart or accomplished, regardless of the field. It could be athletes, baseball players I still play with, or educators or whatever. And I shrink. I'm like, I don't belong here. Does that exist in the I'm sure in the comedy world too?
Yeah, of course, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
And there's so many different like offshoots of what I do, right? Like if I'm in a room with like other stand-ups, I generally don't get imposter syndrome because I feel like I'm good at it. I know I'm good
Okay.
at it.
Yep. Yep.
And I feel strongly about like my ability. But there are certain things that, like for instance, I just started working on writing my first movie script along
Okay.
with someone who has written and directed like major movies.
Okay.
And I'm going over his house and we're working on it. And I've gotten so used to being really good at like the thing that I specialize in that I'm not used to throwing ideas out there and having somebody be like, no, that doesn't work because of X, Y, or Z. And
Right.
writing a movie is so much different. So
Right.
structurally, there's just way more moving pieces than I'm used to. And I started throwing ideas out there, and he was just like, "Well, that doesn't work for me because of X, Y, or Z." And I'm like,
Right.
"Oh shit!" And I definitely had that feeling where it's like, "I don't belong here. I'm not
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
enough to
Yeah.
do it."
Right. Right.
But I think the most important thing to realize, it's especially true in the entertainment industry, but I'll bet it's true across everywhere to a degree. Don't put these people on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot, where it's like that's what took me so long to like really go for it and move to LA is because I would watch people on TV and I'm like, oh, those people are special. Those people
Exactly. Yep.
have this ability. And then you get out here and you work with them and you're like, oh no, they're just idiots. They're
Yeah.
just idiots who like right place, right time, kind of like
Yep.
lucked into it. And
Yep.
there's nothing really special. I mean, there's exceptions, but for the most part, they're just regular people who
Just people. Yeah.
instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna work in HVAC repair, they
Yeah.
were like, I'm gonna go be an actor,
Right. Right.
and it just
Yeah.
happened to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why I think your success is so cool, just because of the grounded perspective. Like, we can joke about the word celebrity, but to us on this side of the country, on this side of the call, you are, people and have done things that we'll never do. But you're still Pat Barker to us, right? So I say this all the time about Flacco. Joe and I text. Joe's been really helpful with some of the charitable stuff I do, and he'll respond right away. I made a joke, Pat. I sent him my book, and I told him that Shador should read it if he has the time, which he probably will. So I got a ha ha from him. But my point is, like, you teach. I taught a Super Bowl MVP. That's a big deal. But
Yeah.
when he's around here, one of the last times I saw him was at a bar. He was a designated driver for his high school friends. So like that's kind of to your point. It just because we see them on stage with the lights and the song and the glamour and the makeup and the people around them doesn't mean that when they get off stage, you're not just seeing people they were before. So it's good to hear you kind of confirm that for people like us. Like I think we do. I certainly don't idolize anybody, athletes, musicians. I have strong feelings about people like Eddie Vedder, and but I don't. He's just a guy who's really good at music. So I think the idea that we remain human is way more important than anything else. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about your role as a dad, because that is the most human endeavor that any of us can take on, is raising another human. So I'm glad that I was close to being right with what I thought was your life out there.
Well,
Yeah.
and the good news about fatherhood is that the bar is set so low. I
Yeah.
mean, my God, like, competing in something as, competitive as like Hollywood and trying to get in a writer's room where there's 5,000 other people trying to get one of 6 seats.
Right.
That's a lot more difficult than being a dad because like the baseline for being a good dad is like be there and love your kid. And if
Yep.
you do those two things, you're ahead of like 50% of
Most. Yes.
dads.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, this is I'm playing with house money at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And I'm
so
sure
then
your
you take them
wife.
to Chuck E. Cheese twice a year, and people are like, "Oh my God, how do you do it?" And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm just perfect.
Really not that hard, man. That's so funny. Listen, I'm gonna wrap up. Is there anything you need to plug? Anything you want to tell your people in mind about coming up?
No, I'm not saying this to plug this. I'm having a daughter in a week. So,
What?
yeah, you didn't know this?
No, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Scheduled C-section in a week.
Okay.
So we're yeah, I'm not plugging it. Like if you guys are around the Kaiser Permanente in
Stop
East
on
Hollywood, like
over.
Yeah, come by. Doors at 9:45, birth at 10:30. Um, no, but I'm saying that to say this. I'm kind of pausing. A couple of creative things, and I'm also in a weird place where I just stepped away from a long time job that I had that was very, very time consuming and structured and took up a lot of my bandwidth. And now I'm gonna have. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. Oh, thanks. You want to talk about celebrities? Look, ProMania 500 is in the chat. What's up, dude?
Pearlmania 500. I've been a fan for so long.
Oh yeah, it's me and Alex came up doing a comedy together in
Really?
Philly, and now
That's amazing.
he's the only non-annoying liberal voice on the internet.
The only one?
These guys, dude, YouTube feeds me the algorithm because I that's very much the party I align with. But some of these guys, man, they need to stop trying to be funny. They're not funny.
Dude,
They're brutal.
wait, before we wrap up, I have to
Yeah,
ask you, is there
yeah.
anything worse than someone who thinks they're funny that is not? I cannot stand it.
It sucks so bad. Let me tell you this. So I went to I was down in Houston back in March, and I was doing a private roast for some multi-millionaire, maybe a billionaire. Right? He's turning 40, and he wanted to have a birthday roast. And I signed on to this thing, and I quoted the price way too low because I thought they just wanted me to come and roast him. And I was like, "Yeah,
Okay.
done."
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh, could you help me with some jokes too?" And I was like, "Sure." And before you know it, he was like, "Well, we're doing a full day, so I'm gonna have like five of my friends going up, and they need to do material too, but I don't trust them to write their own shit." Next thing you know, I had to write six full 10-minute roast sets.
Six?
Even the jokes about me, I was writing the jokes about
Oh,
myself.
God.
Yeah, I wrote like an hour of like roast material, and I'm just like, I'm losing my mind, right? But anyway, so I'm sitting there, I'm at this like really posh country club with these dudes. They're all like, hardcore conservative. And the last thing I want to do is discuss politics.
Yep, of course.
I'm trying to avoid it so much because I'm just
Yeah.
like, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to change anybody's mind at this point. People believe whatever they believe.
100%.
Why waste my energy? But we're sitting there in like, they have like this like hidden cigar lounge and thing. And these guys are all sitting around and they're trying to get me to talk politics. And I was like, I won't talk politics. I was like, here's the closest I'll get. I was like, I'll go political adjacent. I was like, can you at least extend this olive branch and agree with me that Elon Musk is not funny? I was like, I don't care what you think
Baseline.
about
Yep.
anybody's politics. Put it aside for a second.
Yep.
This has to be a bipartisan issue that Elon Musk is one of the least funny people to ever walk the earth.
Right.
And I will never forgive Joe Rogan for making that guy think that he's
Yep.
cool or
Yeah.
funny.
Yep.
Like,
He's neither.
no,
Yeah.
no, you're a dork. You're
Yeah.
a dork and you're a weirdo and maybe a Nazi. I can't
Yep.
confirm the Nazi. I have my suspicions. But the
Suspicions.
thing
Yeah.
I could say definitively, you're an unfunny dork. And that's
Yeah.
fine. Own that. Be an
Yeah. Yeah.
unfunny
Yeah.
dork.
Yeah.
But a grown man being like, haha, I made a 69 420 joke. Do you get it? It's
Exactly.
like,
Dude, I mean, come on. What
get
is
the
the
fuck
lowest
out of
hanging
here.
fruit possible? Come on. So I'm so glad because I feel like I have these strong feelings that make me kind of a jerk. But I was on a flight to Nashville last week, and this guy he was an out loud thinker, and thought he was hilarious, and everything was completely unfunny. And I'm like, why? Of all the things to think you are, that's a pretty bold leap because being funny is hard, I think. So to just assume that people around the flight are going to laugh at everything you say, it was so irritating. And so I'm just glad again that you can confirm some of my
Well,
neuroses
yeah,
about
but
this
that's
stuff.
why. And listen, I don't want to keep you, but like, that's what makes stand up comedy such a disrespected art form because there's literally no barrier of entry. Anybody
Right.
who's ever made anyone laugh thinks that they're hilarious,
Right.
and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get up there and try." Can you imagine being like, "Oh, I want to be a guitar player. I'm just gonna show up with a guitar in my hand and get on stage and see what happens."
Right.
And now I call myself a guitar player. Like that's what
Right.
happens with comedians.
Yep.
Anybody can, and I'm guilty too of enabling them. Everybody at that roast, they're all tremendously unfunny people who were going around the next day like, dude, I crushed. It was all my
It was
jokes.
your stuff. Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
mean you crushed? You didn't do anything. You just read
Yeah.
off a
You
paper.
read. Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
crushed six
Yeah, I mean,
times.
that's the thing I didn't even talk about earlier in the show is how instrumental you were to the Brady roast. Like nobody in our kind of world knows
Yeah.
that stuff was yours. But it's got to be again. That's just a different offshoot. But that's got to be infuriating when these these people are puffing their chest out saying they crushed it, but there's no reference to Pat Barker behind the scene, you know?
I mean, at least that one I got credit for. The
Yeah,
vast majority of stuff I've done, I hasn't even been like official. It's been under the table.
right,
Like I just got hit up last week. Somebody was like, "Hey, Jelly Roll is guest hosting for Jimmy Kimmel for 2 episodes. Can you send in some topical jokes? We'll pay you X."
right.
So I did it, and like, not only was I not credited, I'm sure Jelly Roll doesn't even know who I am. I wasn't
No,
contacted by one of his people. You know what I mean? Like,
right, right, right.
so you do a ton of stuff like that, but it's just part of the game, and like
Yeah,
the bad parts of my job beat the hell out of the good parts of a lot of other jobs
most
I've
people's
had.
job.
So
You're right.
I'm not
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not going
right.
to complain about it. You know?
Do you have, if you don't mind, do you have a name picked out for your daughter, or you keep it private?
Yeah, no, we're going with Magnolia.
Magnolia and Grafton. That's amazing. That's
Magnolia,
awesome.
aka Maggie. Yeah,
Okay, okay. That's awesome. So she'll be here in a week from today.
week from tomorrow. Yeah.
Week from tomorrow. Okay. All right. Well, that's huge news broken on this 14-person Instagram live session. But I have to thank you not just for being here, but for flipping the script and letting us do this. And hopefully between now and next Thursday, I can get the required amount of followers. I'll just go on a binge and just kind of ask everybody to follow me. But again, I end every show the same way, and I know it sounds kind of hokey, but I really do value you and the fact that we're still having conversations 26 years later, and that you agreed to do this. I'm happy for your success. I'm happy for your parenthood, and I'm happy you decided to do this. So thanks so much, Pat. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. And let me say, I'm happy for you. You're a published author now. That's really really cool. And
Thanks.
yeah, I know you made a big difference for like a lot of people. Not me, but like a lot of other people. Seem to think highly of you. So, congrats on everything, man. It's a big deal. And
I appreciate it.
yeah, it's as one of the four teachers I remember from high school, I'm proud of you.
That's a nice. I'll take that Mount Rushmore, the Pat Barker Mount
Yeah.
Rushmore of teachers from high school. So I do. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you saying that. I wish you all the success in the world, and let's not let this be the last time we talk. All right.
All right, hot seaters, thanks for tuning in. Before you go, here's how to stay connected. Follow me on Instagram at Brian_Kulak. Check out more resources on my blog over at briankulak.net. Pick up a copy of The Hot Seat or my other book, Level Up Leadership, both available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And please, if you found value in today's conversation, leave us a rating and a review. It truly helps others discover these stories. Share this episode with someone in your life, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week for another conversation in The Hot Seat.